Welcome to the Executive Forum at Purdue University's Daniels School of Business. I'm your host, Dave Randich, lecturer in the Strategic Management Department. Each episode, we invite accomplished executives and thought leaders to share their experiences, from building careers and navigating change to taking risks and shaping the future of business. Today, we welcome Stephen Emch, president of Orr Fellowship. The nonprofit matches exceptional graduating college seniors with full-time roles at high-growth companies across Indiana. Orr Fellowship then provides 2 years of leadership development. Steve oversees the organization's strategic and operational direction, builds partnership with employers and community leaders, and advances Orr's mission of developing the next generation of business and entrepreneurial leaders. Before stepping into this role, Steve helped grow Indiana's startup and innovative ecosystem through venture development and entrepreneurship work at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. He offers a comprehensive view of talent, community, and early career growth. Join us as we connect today's students with the insights and inspiration that drive tomorrow's leaders. Stephen, thank you for joining us here today at Purdue.
Thank you. It's been fun to be here.
I know that you grew up in Arizona, but you do have some connections back here in West Lafayette.
Yeah, for sure. My uncles were mechanical engineering students here, and I thought I might be one of those mechanical engineering students for a time before I realized I wasn't good at math. And so all of a sudden Purdue and mechanical engineering were not in my future anymore. But I love the West Lafayette area. I have a lot of family and friends here, and even Julie Lands in the back is a good family friend of mine. She works for Purdue now. So I think a lot of Purdue for sure.
Yeah, you got to be smart to get through the engineering school here, right? Engineering students. Yeah. A lot of work too.
Yeah, and I wasn't smart enough to hack it, so I went to business instead.
So tell us about your journey. You're probably only out of school about 10 years.
Yeah.
And you've gotten to this position. We'll talk about the Orr Fellowship in a moment, but tell us about your journey and maybe your big, high, hard one takeaway on what young folks want to be thinking about as they get ready to go into the world.
Yeah, and there's like a long version of this story that I'd be happy to share with anybody, but I grew up in a family business in Arizona. It was childcare. My dad, his gift to us all on our 13th birthday was a job in the family business as is the worst job for the least amount of money. So I was making $6.75 an hour as a janitor at a childcare, which you can imagine how fun that job was. But you're loaded when you're 13 and making that type of money. So did that for a decade, not the janitor job.
So you've worked?
Yeah, for much longer than I've been, over half my life for sure. It's been a core part of my life. So I did that until I was about 24, but then I married a Butler girl who wanted to be out here. So I sort of packed up and moved across the country, worked in software startup sales for 2.5 years at a company called Lessonly, which has since sold. And then from there, I went to the IEDC where I worked on innovation entrepreneurship. And then I've been in my current job for 3.5 years now. So it's been a wild journey, not one I would have drawn up to go from childcare to software startup to state government to now nonprofit. That's not really the trajectory you line up on a piece of paper when you're planning your career. But I think that's, as we even talked about last night, it's part of the beauty of life is how it unfolds in front of you in ways that are unpredictable and more beautiful than probably what you would have put together on your own.
Tell us really quickly what IEDC is.
Yeah, so it's the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. It's Indiana's Department of Commerce, basically. So how do we get better jobs, more jobs here for Hoosiers? How do we help our businesses that are here in the state thrive and succeed? And my job specifically for half my time was on entrepreneurship activity. So how do we support entrepreneurs, help more businesses start, and then the ones that do start, make them more likely to succeed? And then the back half of my time was on the venture capital ecosystem. So making sure those first checks into businesses, especially the extremely high growth ones, generally in software, there's the money there for them. And then the other half of my time was on something called tech commercialization, which is kind of like a mouthful, but basically means we have these universities like Purdue, like Rose-Hulman, like IU here in the state that we're blessed with, that are creating all this compelling research and IP, but sometimes that just sits on the bookshelf in the research library or wherever on campus. And so tech commercialization is all about how do we take that compelling IP and turn it into businesses out in the marketplace and sell those, grow those, hopefully here in Indiana. So.
And Stephen, you talk about how you don't know how your life's going to unfold. In only 10 years, you've gone from working at a family business to software to state Department of Commerce to, we'll talk about the Orr Fellowship nonprofit in a moment. But as you're navigating through all that, and you mentioned You just don't know what life's going to throw at you. Was there a common thread or a common behavior on your part that helped you navigate through all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's sort of two answers, and I'll tell one through the lens of like a story and an analogy that I think sort of drives the point home better than I could. But I think the first answer is just that people matter a ton. Like the people you surround yourself with matter a lot for what dictates the success of your career. So finding great people to be around that are going to make you have to play a little bit better. You don't want to be the best one out of the front. You don't want to be the smartest one in the room. You've heard that said, but like you want people that are going to push you to be better, because it just forces you to up your game and be stronger. And so I've always just tried to surround myself with those people that I find a little intimidating and scary, and I'm not sure how I'm going to keep up. And I just work as hard as possible to keep up when I'm in those rooms. And then the analogy, I don't know if we have any environmental studies majors in the room. Hopefully not, because it kind of ruins the story because you know the punchline. But growing up in Arizona, in Tucson, University of Arizona, they had a science experiment that was in this biosphere. So it's what it sounds like. It's a massive, really futuristic. You should look up pictures. It looks pretty cool. It's a big biosphere, and the goal of this experiment was to basically see like what does life look like in a fully controlled environment. And so in here they had all the biomes that you would imagine. They had Arctic tundra, they had coral reefs, deciduous forests, like everything was in there within this enclosed space. And they sent scientists in there for 2 years to observe what life looked like and how it developed across this 2-year spectrum. So they're just locked in there. They're not allowed to leave. Nobody's allowed to go in. They're stuck in there. And one of the things they found through the course of this experiment was that the trees within, across all those biomes, but the trees within the biosphere grew much, much faster than their like peer trees outside the biosphere. But then they all started falling over once they got to a certain height. So they'd grow really, really fast and then fall over. And they weren't really sure what was going on. So like most scientists, they had like a question that didn't have an answer. So they're like, let's run some experiments. And they found there's a key distinction between these trees that were inside and trees that were outside the biosphere. And it was in their support tissue, like how much support tissue the trees had within the biosphere. Does anybody want to guess how you get support tissue if you're a tree?
Wind?
Yeah.
Wind, he said. Yep.
Yeah, wind is the correct answer. Was that what you were going to say? Okay, a lot of times I hear friendship.
These are smart people here.
Yeah, I know. A lot of times I hear friendship, which is like very nice, but like never the answer. But yeah, it's the wind. And so it's like in this perfectly controlled environment that the scientists had created to sort of manage life for this plant life, they realized that some of those risks that they were trying to avoid for the plants were actually what make it grow strong and actually able to reach its full potential across time. And so for me, as I've been in like my career and navigating it, and we talk to the fellows about this all the time because we have all these like high achieving, all these high achieving young professionals coming into the program that want to do stuff that matters, but everybody's a little scared of failure. And it's like that fear of failure that's ultimately going to help you grow strong. Like you have to do things that scare you and push you a little bit, especially like in your 20s specifically is where I would say is the time to do that, to push yourself, to find out what you're made of. As we were talking about last night, it's like I don't want you to burn out. I don't want you to redline for your entire life, but I do think you should probably figure out what your redline is. Like when are you starting to feel that where you're like, I don't know that there's much of me left to go around, and then you can like manage around that ceiling that you now know. But like if you never hit that, you just sort of like coast along, never reaching like your full potential. So I work with your generation a lot, and it's almost always a lot of conversations around avoiding burnout and work-life balance, and I think those are good, and that conversation has its place. But as long as you realize that you're going to have to like be out of balance sometimes to ultimately create the life that you want, a life of impact and meaning and fulfillment, a lot of times takes course through some sacrifice in those moments. And the final thing I'll say is like specifically on work-life balance, don't think about it too much in like the micro. Like we think about it on like a week over week basis of like how many hours this week was I in the office versus not. You want to think about it over the course of your life. So like your job right now in your 20s is to give future you as much optionality and flexibility as possible. And so by investing time now where you have an excess of it, and there's less dependencies on you. Like I have 3 kids now, so it's a lot harder for me to invest a bunch of time at the office because I'm sacrificing that family time. You can create that optionality for future you, where like you can be at the games and stuff because you put in the time early on to build up that flexibility and options for you.
Outstanding. Yeah. Now tell us about the Orr Fellowship.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to do that. So Orr Fellowship, who's like, other than the people I've talked to already today, who's like familiar with Orr, like loosely?
Okay, we got a few hands coming
Yeah, a
up.
handful. So we've been around for about 25 years, and simply put, we're trying to find the great people of this generation that's coming out of college and connect them with the current greatest generation of business leaders in our communities. So we will take in applicants through an application season, assess them, and ultimately match them with businesses for a 2-year development program where they're going to be in stretched jobs, they're going to have meaningful work that's assigned to them, executive access, and they're going to be pushed and stretched throughout those 2 years in their workplace. But then myself and the team, we're running a bunch of almost like supplemental professional development events in the evenings to sort of wrap around the work environment to help you grow faster. So our goal is that every community that we're in, and that can be you and your career and your own micro environment, the businesses and the communities that we're involved in, all grow faster as a result of us existing. Like we're just catalyzing that growth by connecting people and creating a lot of potential by investing in fellows. So we have about 100 fellows coming into this program in June. They're going to start their 2 years across, it's about 80 businesses, and 30% of those are in Evansville. The rest are all in central Indiana. And they'll be with us for 2 years at these businesses as full W-2 employees working hard. And then we're going to catalyze their growth as best we can.
So paint a picture for us. So a Purdue student gets out after 4 years.
Yep.
They become an Orr Fellow. They're working with you for 2 years. What are they doing during those 2 years?
It runs the gambit. Like we have people that are in marketing roles and like engineering roles, and they're CFAs for a financial institution. They're consultants. They're project managers. They're software engineers. It's really all over. And the distinction for us, as you think about like what role does Orr have in this ecosystem, like we're not necessarily looking for like really strong technical acumen. That's not our skill set. Like our skill set that we've honed over the 25 years we've been doing this is really focused on raw human potential and who we think can be the next generation of great leaders in the city and in our state and in the businesses and communities we live in. So we're much more looking for how involved you've been on campus and like how plugged in you are into just the world outside of just your own, and giving back to the community. And so in those jobs, they're going to be running the gambit of like work that they're doing, but then in the programming for us, like we'll do nonprofit consulting where you'll take on strategic projects for nonprofits, which have ranged from helping find new executive directors to marketing strategies, and to even just helping them come up with like an organizing system for their office. We do case competitions with a lot of high alpha startups a lot of times. So we partner with Advisa on leadership and development curriculum, which I don't know if you know who that is, but they do leadership consulting and development for all the way up to Fortune 500s, all the way down to us. They built a 2-year curriculum just for fellows to accelerate their development to like self-awareness, self-management, and then leading and influencing others around you. So work-wise, they're going to get involved in quite a bit, and then in Orr, we keep you busy for sure.
And then at the end of, is it 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
What then happens with the student?
It depends. Like it's really a story for the student and the business to write. I'll say like 70% of fellows end up staying on with that business after the 2 years are up. Another like 10, 15% find another job within the ecosystem wherever they're at, so in Evansville or central Indiana. And then a handful will go to grad school after that, which we now have partnerships with IU and Butler for grad school. Hopefully Purdue's on that list soon, but you get discounts and expedited acceptance for your MBA at those schools. And then some go out of state, about 30% of our applicants are from out of state, and so some of them go back home. But 70% stay with the company, about 80% stay in the state, which we're really excited about.
And how does a high potential student make their way into the Orr Fellowship?
Yeah, we have our, just coming to stuff like this is really helpful. My email is just steven@orrfellowship.org, so feel free to reach out. But we have an application window that's open in August and September, so that's when you throw your name in the ring. And then you likely know somebody that was in the program or know somebody personally that was in the program. We have a lot of Boilermakers that have been through Orr. So I would for sure try and like reach out, work your network, try to see who you know that could maybe help you think about it or a connection you might have to the program. We take all that seriously, like your application, referrals we get, all creates like a sort of like basket score that we use to manage our pipeline. We get, any given year, about 1,200 people apply to participate. We take in about 100. So it's a pretty competitive program, very prestigious for the ecosystems that we operate in, like that's associated with elite young talent. And so it's tough to get in, but it's worth it if you do.
And so you've seen a few hundred high potential young people go through your program now in your time as CEO of the Orr Fellowship. What have you seen that works for young people, and maybe some watch-outs? Why don't we start with what works? High potential young people, successful in Orr, stay on with the company or maybe go to a similar and they're successful. What are they doing that makes them a success?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, some of it is case by case, but the biggest thing, and this answers both questions, I think, but it's like the ego that they walk through or the way they handle themselves in the business world matters a ton for how much the company wants to invest in them. And especially if you like struggle, which everybody is a little bit worse at their first job than they think they should be. Like you're going to come out of college and you're going to think you're hot stuff, and a lot of you are, but like it's probably going to be harder than you think. And the people that don't show up with like a position of like humility, and they show up instead with like entitlement or arrogance, those are the ones that seem like they struggle, and vice versa. The ones that show up with that, they're willing to ask the questions, they're willing to ask for help when they need it, are the ones that tend to do the best. And the lack of ego stretches beyond that too, of like not being just married to like what's in your job description, but willing to be a team player, where it's like if you're asked to do something, but you're like, well, that's not my job description, so I'm not going to do that. Like everybody is like watching that and seeing that you weren't willing to like go the extra mile, and like that's not always fun to think about, but it's what's required to accelerate your career, is like go that extra mile, do the extra things. I think even my career and moving fast was like boils down to really taking on a few stretch projects, and one at the software startup and then a couple at the state that like nobody else wanted to do, and I did on top of like my other jobs, but like they help position you for like much bigger opportunity by taking on those bigger things. So I think, managing your ego. I think just diligence or discipline, whichever word you want to pick, but like doing what you say you're going to do and what's asked of you when it's supposed to be done, and not always having an excuse for like why it's not done. That's really big. And then I think for the ones that it works really well is they have a ton of agency, where like they take responsibility for the outcomes in their life. And so we have a saying in Orr that we can put you in front of any door within Indiana that you want, but you still have to be the one that knocks. So I think that's generally true for a lot of opportunities in Indiana. It's like you can get in front of a lot of different people, but you still got to be the one that knocks. You still got to be the one that shows up and puts in the work to make it actually mean something. Even at Purdue, if you all didn't pay attention in any of your classes, didn't take notes, didn't study, the 4 years you pay for would be worthless. And it's the same in Orr. It's like I can put on all the programming and put you in front of all these different business leaders in the community, but if you're not actually plugged in and engaged and trying to like squeeze all the juice out of that lemon in front of you, it's not going to mean anything. So it's the people that really exercise a lot of agency, and they're like, I'm going to make this mean a ton for myself and my career to move me much faster than I would otherwise.
So, and I know the students have heard a lot of this before about agency and checking your ego, being accountable, being disciplined. So back for us, our teachers, what are we doing in college that is chugging out high potential kids that don't know how to do that kind of stuff? Do you have any idea? Or is that just human nature all down the ages?
Yeah, it's hard, and like I don't want to play psychologist too much, but I would say it's easy to. I'd say the other thing that to go back to the last question, because it'll pull into this one. The other thing is like being super coachable, and this goes into the ego, but like a complaint we hear from our partner companies, not just about fellows, but just about this generation coming into the workforce, is that like any feedback that's not positive is like feels like an attack to them, like feels super personal and hurtful, and they don't always know how to take it. And so showing up super coachable and willing to get better and wanting to improve matters a lot. And so I think when you think about colleges, there's a few things that like are going to be very not true going forward once you graduate college. One is like the rubric for success is pretty clear within college. It's like get involved in as much as you can. You know what the test score is going to be graded on. You know what the teacher's looking for. And you know, just by being in this room, that like you have to get involved in stuff outside of just like your degree, get involved in extra stuff. But it's a lot more ambiguous at the world you're about to go into. Like the criteria for success is less clear. The assignments you're going to be given, a lot of times, the success, what it looks like to be successful is going to be less clear. So, being willing to like ask questions and like get to that clarity, like you have to own the clarity, and instead of it being like given to you, which is maybe what you're used to in the college environment. And then I think generally, as you all, I would say in like your personal lives, and especially online, you can curate your own environment. That's like very only what you want to hear and only what you want to see. And the real world's like much more dynamic than that, like less controllable. You and I have both experienced that over the course of our careers. Is like you have to work with people you don't like. You have to be in rooms you don't necessarily want to be in for a long time. You don't get control over all of that. It's part of your career of growth. And so like understanding how to tolerate things that maybe aren't like 100% values aligned with you as like you're navigating your career. It's not always fun, and make sure you know what your red lines are, but no, it's not going to be like a perfect seamless fit and like perfectly curated environment. Like what we have a tendency to create with like social media and all of that, we can sort of curate our own world where we don't have to come face to face with a lot of that. And I'm not saying social media is bad. I'm just saying it's one of the things that comes out of it is like you're less exposed to stuff that you don't want to see because it's only showing you what you want.
Well, I like your point about you get out of college and your first job is harder than you think, and you're probably going to get some negative feedback. And I know from my long life of receiving lots of negative feedback.
Me too.
It's hurtful, it's not easy, and I never learned to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I should have been an Orr Fellow.
Well, I'm not saying we get it perfect at all. It's just like, it's a key part of growth. Like you're not going to nail everything you do in life. And so it's like, how do you get better?
Do you have any coaching at Orr for me and the rest of us about ways to receive negative feedback in a more positive way?
Yeah, I mean, I think the very first thing I would say to everybody, and this goes not just for work, but like in your personal relationships and with your significant other or just friends, but like try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Like it's super, super rare that you actually come across somebody that's just like incredibly malicious, that just wants the worst thing for you to happen. Most people are telling you feedback because they want you to be better. They need you to be better, and they think you're capable of better. And that's why they're telling you. They're not telling you to hurt your feelings. Like as business leaders, like firing people is like the worst thing. Like it's no fun. It's emotionally painful for us. It's expensive for the business. Like everybody wants you to work out when you're hired. Like, and they're going to invest in you to try to make it happen. And you even said last night, like, the last person you fire is the trier, like the person that's trying still. It's like if you show up and you're continually investing and trying to make it happen. So I think giving the benefit of the doubt is super, super important. And I say that as somebody, like I almost got fired from my job at that software startup, my first job in a career. I was on a PIP and everything. Like it was super scary.
Performance improvement plan.
Yeah, sorry. Just for not doing a good job as like a salesperson. And had to like fight my way through that and eat a lot of humble pie. Because like months before that, I was not sure why I wasn't the CEO of that business. And then you get put on a PIP and it's like, maybe that's why. It's because I'm actually not that good at like what I thought I was, or as good as I thought I was. But yeah, I think that. And then I think trying to clarify like the game you're playing is really important. Like in your job, your first job, you're going to have a manager, you're going to have a boss at whatever level they're at. You need to understand like what they're measured on, like what success looks like for them and how they're measuring success for you, and understand the rules of the game on the field. A lot of times there's a lot of assumptions that go into that where you think you know what it is, they think you know what it is, and it's never like deliberately gotten and drilled into. But trying to understand how to get, I always use the word picture of like getting on the same side of the table as them, looking at the problem. And we talk about this a lot through the framework of negotiations with fellows when they're talking about negotiating for more salary, like a year or two into their job. It's like, if you're doing it right, I think that's like probably like a year or two long conversation where you're saying, in 12 months, I want us to be in this room having like a really awesome conversation. I want you to be excited to give me a raise and a title that's bigger. I want to be excited to get those things. To make that conversation happen in 12 months, what needs to be true between now and then? Like, how do I need to grow? What do I need to be doing? What do you need to be true, like in your life? Is there areas of your work that I need to take off your plate so you can grow, to create space for me to grow? And then that's your job for the next 12 months. Like then you have clarity on like, this is the goal. And by getting yourself on the same side of the table, like their problem is you're not valuable enough, and your problem is I'm not making enough money. So it's like if you can get each other on the same side of the table looking at that, which is actually the same problem, you can be teammates in it and solving that problem, as opposed to like coming into it combative and assuming the other person's not on your, it doesn't have your best interest at heart. So, and then, yeah, through that, you'll land on like another principle, which is a big deal for me, is like expectations being clarified and being made into agreements as opposed to just assumptions. And you'll find this a lot in any of like your significant other relationships, where you like walk into that with a bunch of expectations of how they're going to be, how they're going to show up, all those things. And those need clarified into actual agreements where like you're both like, oh yeah, that's like how this is going to work, and this is what it's going to look like. And it's the same place in your workplace of like getting those quiet assumptions on the table and clarified into like actual expectations that you're both agreed to into agreements is really important.
So that's an important win-win negotiation. And I suppose going back to something you said earlier, Stephen, now as an employee, I got to do what I said I was going to do.
Totally. Yeah. It's a little scary because it's like now everybody's doubly clear that like you know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So like know what you're signing up for, because it can be a double-edged sword where it's like, well, with this extreme clarity comes like a very clear measuring stick that you just help define.
Yeah.
So know that you're committing to that. But it's not, so when it's clear, it's still scary, but like you actually know what you're doing. Like you know what the game is. And I find that more comforting than like the shadow boxing that can exist otherwise.
And it's one more example of taking a risk in your 20s, right? Stepping out there, making commitments, living up to them, and being successful, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I, like when we like in leading teams, it's like that's the person you want like to promote, is the person that's like, hey, this is what I think it should look like. I want to grow into this. You're showing up with like a ambitious spirit, but like patient, knowing that like time is going to be a part of that equation. Like if you showed up and said, hey, I need a promotion right now, that's going to be a much different conversation. But if you're like, I want to earn this thing across the next 12 months, like what do I need to do to earn that? As like, I want to promote that person all day.
And it's a differentiator, right? Because
Totally.
most people don't do that. So it's
No.
a way to differentiate.
Yeah. It's like you're obvious for the employer. You're like, hey, they're thinking about being here for a long time. They're not going to jump ship right away. Like they want to invest here and they want to grow. And so you want to all of a sudden like allocate resources around that person a little bit more than you would otherwise.
Wise words. Now you're looking at a lot of these young people coming through your Orr Fellowship out into the world. Nobody can predict so far out into the future with all the technology and everything going on, but what kind of vistas are you seeing opening up for young, bright students in terms of opportunity these days?
Yeah, it's a hard question. We talked about it a couple times in the groups this morning that I've been a part of, which has been a lot of fun. Interestingly, like, and there's not a lot of like philosophy and liberal arts majors in this room, I don't think, but like those degrees are actually doing super well and are expected to do really well, especially in the age of AI. And I think the point for us, because like I'm not a philosophy major either as a business grad, is people that aren't stuck in one narrow domain that can like think across different domains is going to be super, super important. I think when you look at what AI is going to do, especially for you in your early career jobs, I did like an informal survey with some of the fellows, understanding like the day-to-day jobs for them. And they, like in their own words, I said, tell me what you do in your day-to-day. And I ran all their responses through like through the AIs. I was like, all three of them, like Claude, Gemini, and Grok, asked them like, how would you approach these? How much of this do you think you could do without a human in the loop? And it's about like 50% of it. And so that's not to scare you. I think it's to say like the way you interact with your workplace is probably going to materially change over the next 3 to 5 years, especially for those of you just entering the workforce, where you're going to probably, AI is going to be able to augment you so where you can operate maybe a little bit more broadly than you would otherwise. And so like being able to work across disciplines, be curious, ask a lot of questions will be super important, I think, for those of us in this room. And speaking of myself first, I think curiosity is going to be a really key differentiator over the next few years. And so, but with that, we see like project management being like a really big job right now. We put a lot of people in like marketing consultancies and just consultant firms generally. Then the one that's been rising recently is like a chief of staff position. We placed like 3 to 4 fellows in that most recent class, all in that job, and it's a pretty big job. It means a lot of different things everywhere. For what we've been interacting with, it's basically like a junior executive you're working with the CEO, the COO, somebody on the exec team, and you're their right hand. Like you'll sit in meetings on behalf of them. You'll run projects on behalf of them. Like when you're somewhere, you're like the proxy for that person being there. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity, and like we've seen interest in that just starting to ramp up across time, which is exciting for you all to potentially be in jobs like that where you get exposed to so much stuff that you would never normally be exposed to, especially as an early career individual.
So I hear project management, I hear learning the market, and I hear cross-functional work.
Yeah.
Which is excellent for us to be really promoting here at Purdue. Stephen, on behalf of the Daniels School of Business, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
It
you.
was excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning into the Executive Forum. To learn more about how the Daniels School of Business is helping students and organizations shape what's next, visit us at business.purdue.edu. Until next time, keep learning, leading, and building the future of business.